Hello YouTube, so back at the allotment today, did a bit more sawing, so I thought I'd take a chance to review some bow saws I recently purchased. I've had two for quite a while, which are a bit old. They essentially all do the same thing, as long as your blade's sharp, but how they feel in terms of how rugged and how the grip is makes a difference. So I saw these when I was buying some wood. I thought they got a pretty good handle, they're fairly cheap, so ended up buying all four in the end. So what we end up having is a 760 30-inch, a 24-inch, which is 610. You've got a pointed bow saw, which is 21 inches, 530mm, and then a combination, which is a hacksaw stroke bow saw, which is 12 inches. So essentially, there's the wood I'm going to give it a go today. The reason I got these is because I really like the handle. The ones I've got before are just metal. It just feels really rugged, really nice plastic, and nice to grip. If you can do a lot of sawing, and again, it's all about the grip, isn't it? It's all about how you feel at the end of the day after all that work, so you're not going to have too much strain on your hand. So they've all got the same handle, which is why I went for them all, and we'll start with the 30-inch. So as you can see, it's a really nice grip there, and obviously it's not easy work when using a handsaw. Obviously, it makes you appreciate how good a chainsaw is when you use any kind of handsaw. I've done a previous review of that 4-foot saw. It's a very thick blade. It's very hard to push through, but they're so thin, so sharp. Other than any kind of electric or chainsaw, nothing's going to be easier than a bow saw because it's so thin. So this is the 30-inch. So I'm not going to bore you and go through the whole bit of wood, because it will take some time, some effort, but it's a really comfortable grip, really sharp blades. Obviously you can't, well, I guess you might be able to sharpen them, but generally speaking they are disposable blades. They're all going to be much the same, just about whether you need different sizes for different tasks, but essentially looking at them, also no, actually no, that is different. So we have a smaller set of teeth on the 24s. So if you look at the blade, doesn't give you the length of the teeth, but you can clearly see, I'll show you here, you can clearly see compared to that, different size blades there. And then again, the pointed bow saw has the same blade, it appears, as the 30-inch, and then again the final one, the combi bow saw hacksaw has, again, interestingly, the same teeth as the larger two, but comes with a hacksaw blade as well. So that'd be very handy. So the reason why, I don't know why this has a smaller, it says here for pruning and seasoned wood, so I think it's maybe more for general use. So that's something worth noting. But yeah, so I mean they're all gonna do the same job essentially. Obviously, same rough job, but they're so cheap. I figured just get all four, because I like to have tools that last, not disposable, last a lifetime. I've mainly got these, to be honest, because of the grip. You can change the blades, you can change, and essentially all saws are going to have the same structure. Literally no difference. It's all about the grip really, and maybe how it tightens. So these were quite cheap, really nice grip. Figured to get all four. So yeah, again, you can get them anywhere. They're called Roughneck saws, different lengths. Get from Amazon. I think I got it from a wood yard. But yeah, happy with those. What I will say about bow saws though is that it is no replacement for a chainsaw. I mean, they're very labour intensive, and obviously this one, it starts to pinch after a while, which is just standard, you know, that's how they are. But there is definitely no replacement for a chainsaw. It's a very different cut to the 4-foot saw that I reviewed. That was very straight. You get 2 people on that, you can cut straight. It's very, very hard to get this to cut straight. It is literally just kind of garden maintenance. Obviously, the benefits is that you don't need to have the chainsaw and the petrol and the case and trying to get it started. If you want to prune a few branches back, then this will get through it before you even set the chainsaw up. If you're doing a lot of cutting and you've got the space and the time and don't mind the noise, then a chainsaw is definitely the way forward. This will definitely keep you fit. I mean, you'll be super fit using these. But as with most of these tools, every tool has its own specific use. So it's not to say that they'll never be needed, but they definitely don't replace a chainsaw. When you use a chainsaw, you realise how effective they are compared to manpower. Still good to have though, still good to have. And again, I've got quite a small chainsaw, so it's a bit of a struggle getting through something this big because you've got to rotate the wood quite a lot, and you could get through this in one, or in two, to be honest, because of the depth of the cut. But you know, I very, very rarely get a straight cut from these, so it's just worth noting that each tool has its own specific uses. Again, with going through this, there's a lot of flex in this saw blade, which is just down to how much you tighten this, but that is just part of the design. And that's pretty much the reason you'll never get a straight cut. I mean, I started this straight. I'll turn the wood over, I'm right at an angle here because there's so much flexibility. So I think if I had something that big, all day long I could use this. You get through it before you even set the chainsaw up. You know, a chainsaw needs warming up and it takes quite a while to get going. And then you get through that in no time. So a couple of cuts on that, you go to this. But anything big like this, anything where you're going to be cutting all day, I'd go straight to a chainsaw. Just to show you the weaknesses in this type of technology. It's not the saw is just as simple as it can be. It's the actual weakness in the design and the way it's made and the flexibility of the blade. The benefits in the previous saw that I reviewed, the 4-foot, I think it's 2-man saw. I mean, that's very, very thick metal. Took a lot of effort to get through, but went through no problem. I had a few comments saying obviously you can sharpen it even further and put oil on it, but you're going to get a lot straighter cuts than that because the blade's not going to flex as much. It's got 2 people on it, and this, you know, you couldn't get a more flexible blade. I mean, you're never going to cut straight with that. One observation I've just made as well is that, you know, you want this blade as tight as possible, and it's quite hard actually to get a grip on this when it gets to the final stages to really turn it. You know, you have to really grip and twist around. I'd probably want a more meaty handle there. I do wonder whether this is a cheap blade, whether it's a very flexible blade. So what I'll do before I post this video, I'm going to have a little look at my other saws. I've got some saw blades I bought as a replacement, which I imagine will be thicker. So I'll do a comparison with the blades, because it could be that they've got a sharp but very thin metal flexible blade on there, which is making this excessive play. It seems to be more flexibility, more play in this than my other saws I've had for a while, which obviously had replacement blades. So I'll do that before I post. So as you can see here, you've got all 4 bow saws lined up, very similar grips. The grip's very, very comfortable. My issue though is the tensioner. So here it's obviously just solid plastic, quite slippy. These 2 aren't too bad, they're rubber, but you still, to get proper tension on them, you've really got to give it some on the twist. And obviously for the larger one, which you want the most tension on, again, it's slippery plastic. So that is my issue, and I'll show you why when you look at simpler bow saws. So these are my old bow saws. They're very cheap. This is the longest one, the orange one, and a small blue one. I've never had any complaints with these really. Now they do a job. They don't cut. The long one doesn't cut necessarily that straight, but it'll get through the wood pretty quickly. The blue one's a lot straighter. And I have a blade here, which shows you that they are very flexible blades. I thought maybe at first the ones on the Roughneck ones had quite cheap blades, and when you get the new blades they'll be thicker, but they're not. They're quite thin. So they do really rely on the tension. Now these obviously aren't as comfortable in the hand, but part of the grip is the tensioner here. So you've got to get the right blade for the saw. There's no changing that. You have to get the exact same blade, and then you use this kind of pulley system there, or leverage system, and it pulls it tight. Now if I show you this one quickly, here if I can with one hand. Now that took quite a bit of force with one hand anyway, to pull that back. So to get it back, you have to really push the force. So to get the same force with the twist grip, I'd say you'd have to put a tool on it. To do it by hand, I think it's very unlikely. Now that is it's still flexible, but feels very, very tight. So I actually think it's a better design. It's not as comfortable, doesn't protect your hand as much. If somehow, with these, they could incorporate that tensioner with that handle, would be perfect. And you know, you only have to tension it once. I imagine if you get a tool on that, you'll be fine. Whether you need it that tight is yet to be determined, but you know, look at that, that's hardly any movement in that at all. Obviously more so in that one, which is probably why they feel like they cut better. So I'm a bit divided really. I think, you know, they're great products, lovely handle, protects your hand, feels great, but it's just an issue tensioning it. It might be that I can find some sort of tool to do that, or you just put a rag on it and you give it a good old twist. But I don't think you're ever going to get the same tension as you would do on the cheaper style. You're not going to get a better cut. The blades are all the same. It's just whether you want that nice grip. So it's just personal preference really.